But can I suggest what I believe is perhaps the best personal development book of all time? And I
Amen.
and I think if you nail this, everything else will come along with it as far as business goes. But his third one to me was the absolute game changer. It's a standalone, and it was called Living Untethered. And in this book, he really helps you understand your relationship with the world around you and within since forever, and how to be able to recognize it, deal with it effectively, and live a much happier life. I mean, I made a study of it for about a year and a half.
And to be able to take my own journey and figure that all out, get untethered from it, and be able to move and grow is powerful. And I'll tell you what, the next three people you mentioned that book, when you reach out to me, I'll send you that book for free too. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and my guest is back for part two. A lot of you know the Go Giver book, and Bob's done many books, and we may talk some about some of his books, but the servant's heart's tied to that, how to be the right giver, and he's just the expert at that. But before we start, we're going to be grateful for him once, of course, for being on, but here's a grateful gratitude for you, audience. Always stay true to yourself. You're perfect just the way you are. Well, perfect is good, and then perfection's different than perfect. And my guest today, Bob, is I call him perfect because he's changed my life. Just shared the story with him. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. It's always great to speak with you. We don't get to do it enough.
Yes, that's true. Books. I mentioned that before the show. You read a lot of books. What's the premise for that?
Yeah. I always say that my house is comprised of books with some scattered furniture, but mostly books.
I love
Funny,
that.
I always remember my dad reading when I was a kid, and he was he grew up. I don't think college was even in his realm, and he but he's self-taught. I mean, he just read books all the time and was always learning. And I think I picked up that habit, but it was really after I got into sales that I started really getting into the type of reading that would kind of end up defining my life, in terms of what when you get into sales, you think it's the part about how to sell, which of course is very important. But, since that's what you do. But what
Yeah.
you really learn is that it's all the extrinsic.
Yep.
It's right. It's and so I remember when I was reading Tom Hopkins, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling, and Zig Ziglar's Secrets of Closing the Sale. They both recommended How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, right? And I'm listening to them, and they're recommending all these other books. I'm listening to other sales speakers, and they're recommending Think and Grow Rich and Richest Man in Babylon, and Og Mandino's books, The Greatest Salesman in the World, and all these books. So I'm starting to, my mind's open to all these ideas I never knew about. Uh, and I started to realize that success is really an inside job. I mean, it manifests itself externally, of course, but it begins in here in the head and then into the heart. And the more you read, as well as listening to people that should be listened to, and applying the information. Of course, it doesn't stop with the reading and learning. Application's so important, but you can really go a long way through just filling your mind with books. And back then it was, remember, I'm an old guy, so back then it was cassette tape albums,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
One step above an 8-track tape. and and so that's really how that started, and I just kept growing and growing. And then so one of my favorite books of all time, and excuse me, I'm just gonna grab
Yeah.
this.
Grab it. I don't know how you could find it with all those books, but you found it.
So I read this in 1986, a few years after I'd been in sales, a couple of years. And so it's called Psycho-Cybernetics. It was published in 1960. It was written by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And this was the first book that explained to me the concept of belief systems. that we see our world a certain way. We are run by what I call an unconscious operating system, right? Which is basically the belief system he's talking about here, that we learn from everywhere, from upbringing, environment, schooling, news media, television
Mhm.
shows, movies, culture, popular culture, cultural more, everything. But pretty much by the time we're toddlers, our basic set of beliefs is already set,
Uh,
and everything after that is just added on to that basic premise of understanding. So we as human beings, look at the world a certain way without even knowing that that's how
mm,
we're looking at it. So we have all these beliefs that run our lives unconsciously, right?
yep.
What is a belief? A belief is a subjective truth, meaning it's the truth as you or I understand the truth to be, which doesn't mean it's the truth, right? And so, but we think it is, and we run
Yeah.
our lives that way. Also, as human beings, we believe everybody else sees the world basically the same way we do, which makes intuitive sense. How could it be any different? If I think that way, everybody else must, right? And that's why you hear people say, "Oh, everybody loves that." Not necessarily. You love that. I love
Yeah.
that, but not every.
Yeah.
So, and I learned from this book that the limit of our success, our success is limited, or is held, is subject to our ultimate success is subject to our most limiting beliefs. Wow.
Yeah.
So these are the things we learn from books.
What's interesting too with your book, hold it up, and you and YouTube will see this. Is you've got notes, you've got stickers, you dive into the book. You just, which is okay if you just read it, but you
Yeah.
got, yeah, look at that notes.
Yeah. And I actually have the written notes from when I first started reading. I don't know where the rest of them are, but these were like from, back from when I first read it. I was just writing down things too. But I don't know where the rest of them are, but I decided to keep these.
Yeah, that's
Just
fantastic.
one.
I love that because history is beautiful, especially if it's good history and it's powerful history like that. Did you become an author because you read so much, or was there another reason?
Yeah, so when I started speaking, um, I was speaking for a couple of years, a few years, and I had my own cassette tape albums, right? Just like the ones I used to listen to. I had my cassette tape albums. I would sell them from stage at the end of my talks, and um, and that was fine. But I was at a National Speakers Association convention, and this was I think it was my first one. I'm pretty sure it was my first one. And there were a few speakers around, and they were just asking me about my business, and that's what kind of organization it is. You got all these successful speakers, and they're talking to some young kid, who was just really and guiding me along, and it was so nice of them. But one of them said, Berg, you really need to get a book out there, to write a book. And I said, well, I really don't want to, because, I'm getting a speaking fee, which, back then really wasn't much at all, but for me it was, and I was selling a lot of tapes at the, things, and so that was pretty cool. And they said, yeah, but you really want to, because what it's going to do is it's going to help position you as an authority in your field, and you're going to find it easier to get engagements and be able to charge higher fees, and you're going to increase your market value. And it sounded, I'd like to be a good student, so it's a good idea. And so that's when I wrote Endless Referrals, and that was based on one of my albums at the time. And yeah, it sounds so funny to say albums, because they don't
It
use that
does.
term anymore. But that back it sounds like a rock star. And my albums, all right. But that's
Yeah,
what they were called, cassette tape albums.
right.
Um, but yeah, so that was so I wrote Endless Referrals just as a positioning tool, and I did use it totally as a positioning tool, and it worked. So after that, I think so at first I was just a speaker who wrote.
Hmm.
I think after that, though, when I wrote books, wrote and then co-authored like the Go Giver series and so forth with John David Mann, I think I was then an author who spoke, because it was more, I wanted to have books out there that that discussed the message that I thought was important. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it
Yes.
earned a little bit in that regard.
Yeah. And it sounds like the other thing too is as you speak now and you've got these books, people can take those books, buy them, or whatever you do with how they get them, but they take you home.
Mm.
So it just doesn't end with your speaking gig. It's on their coffee table, at their bedside, and they have access to you 24/7, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and I think that's important. You know, you can get a message out there with a book, so much. You know, you can scale your message. So if there's something you really believe in, you know, and you put in a book and get it in people's hands, you've got a good chance for people to be able to absorb the message and have it there.
Let me ask you a question. I get asked this all the time. I tell people, you got to read more, whatever it may be. Reading is good. If you're not, you're missing out a little bit. What would you tell the audience of people that I want to start reading now or get back to reading? What's that first step?
Well, I think the first step, like anything else, is to act upon it.
Act.
Don't wait until you feel like you want to read. Just choose something, read it. But don't put pressure on yourself to have to read an entire book or an hour reading or have whatever. I mean, pick up a book and read a page. Make that your goal. Read a page of the book and then put it down, you know, unless you want to continue to read, but you don't have to. And then the next day, read another page and then another page and then maybe two pages and do it like that. Build in your small successes. That's the key. And
Small
you'll
wins.
yeah, and you'll act your way into feeling. Now, this was another one of those books back when I first started. This was The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. I've got that one over there. I won't bother going back and get it, but this was the first time that I was taught that, or the first time I was exposed to the message that action precedes feeling. Right? That we think we've got to wait until we're excited to do the thing. No, if we wait till we're excited, we won't do the thing. We probably
Yeah.
won't, at least not for a long time. No, so you do the thing first. You know, if you're feeling lethargic and lazy, don't wait until you feel energetic to start acting energetic. Just start acting energetic. Get up, walk, you know, stand straight, walk tall, walk fast, walk with purpose. Do the thing you need to do. And your emotions are going to follow. Um, you know, your emotions are going to follow your actions. That was the first book I read that really taught me that. So yeah, there was all this learning of things that, you know,
Yeah.
opened my eyes. I'm so glad I got into sales.
Yeah. I mean, look where you are today. It's a beautiful story that you have. And I love the taking action before the emotion or use the different word. I love that because so many people don't take, I wish I could do there. All right. I want to do this. I want to do this. And they talk about it for years, work with people that do that. And they want to start a podcast. And 6 months go by. Why haven't you started? I'm still thinking about it. Take action. Listen to Bob. Take action.
Yeah, just start doing one thing. And by the way, you know, that's not to say, uh, you know, do something without any preparation. If it's something there should be preparation for, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying to just, you know, no, if something takes thought beforehand in order to get it together, or it's going to be either dangerous or hazardous or counterproductive, no, of course. But it's just the action itself, whatever it is you need to do. If it's a podcast, start checking out how to do a podcast, you know, online, and then take an action on it. So it says, uh, you know, get a so and so microphone. Oh, look into the microphones. Get the microphone, or you know, start writing down. Or you to invest that much money. Just start writing down who you would like to interview. Why? What's the purpose of it? But take the action. That is so key. But again, not to put pressure on you to have to do everything. Build on the
And it's the,
small list.
yeah, the false philosophy of your reading that you just mentioned. Do one page a day. Same thing with a podcast, or you want to be a CPA, just do one little thing every day or get better 1% every day. Don't know if you said that, and I've heard you and stuff you put out there about that. The Go Giver series is wonderful. The parables are wonderful. But a lot of people know the Go Giver. That's the first book and all that. Talk about the series and what people can walk through in the series, not just that one book.
Yeah. So after that book came out, John and I were asked by a lot of people. Well, because remember, first book's a parable, and in a parable you can only go so deep, right? You can't. So they said, well, can you talk about the how-tos? How does this book move? So our publisher, rather, great people, wonderful publishing house, Portfolio, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. They said, we'd like to have you guys do two more books. So thought, well, what would we do for the first one? Why don't we listen to the marketplace and what they've been asking us, and answer those questions? How do you apply, those principles? Who else has done it? How have they done it, and so forth? So Go Givers Sell More was the second book. It's the only one that's not a parable. All the rest of them are parables. That's the only one that's not. But what we did is we took all 5 laws and we went deep into them. And what we did is we found people we knew who either through utilizing the first book applied it in a certain way that really paid off well for them, and so we used their story, or just as much we talked to people who were doing business that way long before they ever read the Go Giver, long before they ever heard of it, because there's nothing new in the Go Giver. It's a story. It's based on principles of success. Principles don't change. They've been around forever, right? So we shared those stories as well. And so that's Go Givers Sell More. And then the third one we did, which is our second parable, is the Go Giver Leader. And that was an answer to the question, well, how does someone utilize the Go Giver principles, which a lot of leaders use, but it was basically written for entrepreneurs and salespeople. How does that work with a leader? Well, remember, John David Mann is brilliant. Okay, my co-author in this series. So this guy is a storyteller, like you can't believe. So he came up with that idea of Ben, and in this time the mentor was the enigmatic Aunt L, and he just wrote her, I thought, so wonderfully. But so that was about leadership and what a Go Giver leader really is. And then the next one, the Go Giver influencer, is all about people skills. And that's just a topic of the heart for me. It's something I just love. And so, again, John wove a wonderful story. And and here's a funny thing. So those are the 4 books that John and I co-authored together. But John and his wife, Anna, they wrote a 5th book, and they called it The Go Giver Marriage.
Oh,
And yeah, half of it's a parable and half of it's a how-to. John's wife, Anna, that's her background, and they have a wonderful marriage. And so they wrote just a wonderful, brilliant book on that topic.
I'm glad you shared that, audience. I'm going to do you guys a favor because Bob, I told him a story before the show. I mentioned earlier how it impacted me. So the first 5 people, if you reach out to me, I'll put my contact info in the note. I'm going to send you one of the Go Giver books for free to get you on that train because it's changed my life. It's immensely. Again, I told Bob earlier a little bit of the show, but I've lived my life this, and it's huge. So reach out to me, and if you reach out to Bob and you get a hold of him, mention the podcast, and he'll connect you with me, and I'll send you a book and get you on your path to reading, because I think reading is it's wonderful, and I love the one page. I'm gonna stick that to my head. Do your one page every day. If you get 3 in, you get bonus. Right? Bonus is always good. Nice. I want to dive real quick. We got a few minutes here about the Go Giver, and you educated me before the show. Talk about that, about Go Giving, and you mentioned don't give everything away for free. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
You talk about that because that's very important.
Well, I think, when you have a title like The Go Giver, remember people, and again, it's all based on unconscious beliefs. People will interpret things a certain way. So what's the Go Giver? Does that mean you just give yourself away for free? Does it mean you don't charge for your certain? No, actually, Go Givers tend to be on the higher end of the price scale because Go Givers sell on high value rather than low price. Especially in a commodity-based world, we know that when you sell on low price, you're pretty much a commodity. When you sell on high value, you are a resource. Okay. And so when you can sell on that high value, which of course isn't through what you say as much as how you ask questions and how you're truly, authentically concerned with their needs, their wants, their desires, their challenges, right, and so forth. Now, so, and then another question that comes up, well, can't you be taken advantage of if so it's important to understand that there's nothing about the principles of the Go Giver that are congruent with being a doormat a martyr or self-sacrificial or being taken advantage of. Now, can you be taken advantage? Well, anybody can be taken advantage of, and it's going to happen sometime in your life unless you never leave your home. Okay, but if someone has a pattern of being taken advantage of, it's not because they're a nice person or they're a giving person. It's not because of that. It's because they're doing things in a way, in a certain way, that creates the environment for people to take advantage of them. So they've got to ask themselves, why is that? And again, it's always unconscious. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, "Hey, I wonder if I can find someone to take advantage of me." No, it's unconscious. Okay, but there's always a payoff, an unconscious payoff. What is it that you're looking for? Is it is it an excuse not to be successful? Is it to get attention? Is it so that you whatever it is? There's always some kind of unconscious pay, or the person might not have the tools to know how to do things in a certain way to not be taken advantage of. But again, there's nothing congruent about the two ideas. The key is if you're providing exceptional value in the marketplace, this isn't John coined this saying, and that is that money is simply an echo of value. Right? It's the thunder to values lightning, which means nothing more than that the value that you're providing another person, that must be the focus. The value you must be the focus. The money you receive is simply the natural result of the value you've provided. So being a go-giver doesn't mean you're giving yourself away. Now there's a time and place for everything, of course, and we discussed that. If someone needs something and it's within your power to do it, and it's congruent with your value system, and there's a legitimate role, of course, that's a decision that you make. But it's never about just giving yourself away. It's about providing exceptional value for the money that you charge and receive.
$1 million tip there, audience. I hope you wrote it down like I did. He just made you $1 million. Well, or 100, whatever that may be. Thank you for sharing, because that's huge. And people go, "Oh, I'm never making any money and I'm always helping people." That's not, I hear that too, and that's not a good thing.
Don't do that.
Yeah, thank you. See, Bob said that. That means don't do it. Let's end with the show here. A lot of entrepreneurs listen to this, Bob, thousands. What's the one book? I know it's going to be maybe hard for you to answer, but what's that one book they could start with to help grow their entrepreneur journey?
Well, their entrepreneur journey, there's so many good books. I mean, Michael Gerber's the E-Myth was the entrepreneur myth is always a great one. There's so many wonderful ones, but can I suggest what I believe is perhaps the best personal development book of all time?
Amen. Yes.
And I think if you nail this, everything else will come along with it as far as business goes. It's a book by a gentleman by the name of Michael A. Singer. He's written several books. He was most well known for The Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment, both wonderful, wonderful books. But his third one, to me, was the absolute game changer. And you can read it on its own. You don't have to have read the other two. It's a standalone. And it was called Living Untethered. And in this book, he really helps you understand your relationship with the world around you and with the world within yourself. And it's really how to get past that junk that stays with us since forever, and how to be able to recognize it, deal with it effectively, and live a much happier life. So that's a book I just think if someone gets their hands on that, and wow, I mean, I made a study of it for about a year and a half. It was so good.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful, because everybody's world's different. Bob,
Yeah.
yours different than mine. We're different journeys. And to be able to take my own journey and figure that all out, get untethered from it, and be able to move and grow is powerful. What a great audience. There you go. And I'll tell you what, the next 3 people you mentioned that book, when you reach out to me, I'll send you that book for free too. So 3 people that do that, because I love reading. I reading is the key. And you're such an expert at it. And I want to thank you for taking time. I know you're a busy man. Appreciate you taking the time being on the podcast. How can people reach out, get the books, learn more?
Yeah, best way is just to visit my website, which is Burg, BURG.com. Everything's there. And while they're there, if they'd like, they can subscribe to my Daily Impact, which is on Substack.
Perfect. I'm going to jump on that myself. Again, Bob, thank you so much for taking the time. Audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And this is where the Go Giver comes in. I call it the gift of life, meaning you're listening to this and you got a friend that's really struggling. Share Bob for 10 or 15 minutes on this podcast and say, hey, listen to Bob. And maybe they grab a book and maybe they change their life. You just gave them a gift. That's what Bob's been talking about this whole podcast. Let's give out more gifts. Let's impact people and make a difference. With that being said, me and Bob want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.